And I want to kind of pivot this into surprise packages for the season, because Everton are certainly going to be one.
Yeah.
I said it on the podcast this week. If you haven't already, go and listen to that, go and download it, check it out. That I think they can get top 4 this year.
Yeah, we actually missed a couple of bits on the podcast this week, particularly fullback cover, which I thought they were scant on, but they've actually signed someone called Nkunku from Marseille.
Yeah.
And I forgot that John Joe Shelby returned from a very promising
John Joe
season.
Kenny, not Shelby.
Not Shelby, the other John Joe. From a very promising season in the Bundesliga. I think he put up 31 starts for Schalke last term. Didn't have the best time of it, did they? But yeah, he did okay out of it. Yeah, let's talk about Everton. Last season, finished 12th. Below the likes of Southampton, Burnley, Sheffield United, despite spending 200 million since the start of 18-19, so not great. Drew with Blackpool pre-season, prompting Joe to claim that Ancelotti's finished in the WhatsApp group.
No proof of that. No proof of that.
I'll send you the screenshot after. But now, absolutely flying, aren't they, under Carlo? And they've brought in some very, very savvy acquisitions, including Allan, obviously James Rodriguez. But the interesting thing is not who they've brought in at this point, it's how he's kind of pieced them together, right? Because in that 4-3-3, they all seem like vital components in terms of making this work over the course of the season. Like, I do fear for them. If Doucouré was to get injured, for example, who's going to cover that right channel? You know, when Seamus Coleman bombs on, or when James Rodriguez tucks inside, who's going to put up 5.3 defensive actions in the side per 90 in the absence of Allan? I've got Fabian Delph on the bench.
Allan was injured at the weekend.
Yeah.
And they still rolled a very good Brighton team pretty easily.
It's getting to the point now where like Gylfi Sigurdsson looks like a competent playmaker from deep, which is a totally alien position for him. But Carlo's getting the best out of like him. Iwobi's coming to the side. He's done okay in a few cameo appearances.
I do like Iwobi.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure the Everton fans do. What is it, 1 goal and 1 assist in his first 14 months?
That's stupid.
60 million for Veer Walcott and Alex Iwobi.
Yeah, that was good. That was good business.
I mean, they've managed to ship Walcott out, haven't they? The incomings have been good. The outgoings have also been pretty promising. Like Marcel Brands is trying his best, isn't he, to undo some of the terrible business that's been done over the last 3 or 4 years. Only got 2 million for Schneiderlin. He's only 30. He's gone to Nice, but they've got him off the wage book, haven't they? They got 50% of Theo's gargantuan wages off the wage book, wasn't he?
I think he's the highest
paid
player
at the club. Yeah, I think he was as well. I think I remember seeing that. So they're starting to balance the books as well. Things are looking asymmetrical on and off the pitch in a positive way. But yeah, the way they've started this season has been incredible. And what makes me think they can continue in this fashion is they've thoroughly deserved it. Expected points puts them top of the league. They've scored 24 goals, I think, in their first 7 games, the most of any team in Europe's top 5 in all competitions. Obviously, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is flying. I'm sure we'll elaborate on him later. But yeah, just the way Ancelotti's pieced those new signings together, extremely impressive. So Doucouré, who didn't come into that much fanfare, did he? Has been, for me, absolutely incredible at the start of this season. 9 defensive actions against Crystal Palace, I think 6 in the other 2 games. If you look at his average position on sort of the vises that produced on Twitter, like, he is covering for Seamus Coleman. Seamus Coleman's had a rebirth. Lucas Digne playing with James Rodriguez he's opened up, the Colombian has opened up the Frenchman's game on the left. Like, even more is coming down that side. And yeah, they're just an extremely exciting proposition, aren't they? Centre-back cover, brought Godfrey in as well. Dying embers at a window. I always forget about Holgate as well. But Yerry Mina and Michael Keane playing extremely well. So now all those positions that we've historically, the 3 of us have said, man, they need like cover at centre-half, or the centre-halves aren't good enough for European football. They're starting to look quite robust in every position. And I think it's probably worth touching upon Iwobi because, I mean, he got his first league assist for Everton, for James Rodriguez, didn't he, since arriving. And he's one of those players that doesn't really pass the eye test an awful lot when he's not playing particularly well. But his numbers under the hood have always been pretty good, right? Like, he's very adept at finding space inside the box, finding passes inside the box, very good at progressing it into the final third. So if Carlo Ancelotti can get a little bit more out of him, make his game more well-rounded, and if they can have that sort of impact coming off the bench, that bodes well for the next 6 months. So I actually think they're going to sustain this, but top 6 would still be a big ask. I can see them finishing 5th or 6th, but my instinct, and that's nothing more than just, having watched them fail emphatically over the last 3 or 4 years, is that Champions League perhaps a little bit beyond them. I'm not sure what you boys think.
Pat?
I agree that it's probably just a bit too far, because while the squad is deeper than it's been in the past, it's still not that deep. There are still significant problems at certain positions, and I do think if James gets injured, that is the hub of that side. They're going to be in serious trouble if that happens. I still think midfield is kind of weak.
You don't like the Doucouré move as much?
Well, I'm open to him being good, but he was never very good at Watford, so it would be like a first.
I really liked him at Watford.
Yeah, but people really liked him, but they were kind of like, he's a great box-to-box midfielder, but he did nothing defensively. And then there was a season where he scored a bunch of goals, and everyone was like, he's amazing at getting forward in attack. And then the next season, he didn't do that either. So he was never terribly rounded, and he was never terribly consistent. And my worry when James came in was, if James is playing in that role, then Doucouré is going to need to be deeper. Can he adjust? Now, it's possible he can.
It has so far, yeah.
Well, you say that, but we always see players even if he had 9 defensive actions in one game and 6 in the other 2, then that's still 15 put together, across 4 games. That's not that many. But I don't know. If he has a defined role under Ancelotti, that'll really help. And it might have been that he just had license to get forward more because he was playing next to Capoue. So I think I'm open to him being good. He's the youngest out of those 3 major acquisitions, but he was also pretty pricey. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, what is he, 27 as well?
Yeah, he's 27, and he's 27. Allan's 29. James is 29. James will probably age the best of those guys.
I think what Doucouré adds to the midfield, what they're probably missing is sheer energy. Because Allan,
I think they've had quite a lot of energy guys. I think Delph's an energy guy. I think Davis is an energy guy.
Yeah, but I don't think any of those guys are energy guys in terms of getting up and down the pitch. I'd never see Delph really impacting in and around the edge of the box, whereas I think Doucouré with those late runs into the box causes a lot of problems.
Yeah, if they can cover for that, then that's absolutely fine.
I think that's what Allan adds.
Yeah, if Allan's out, then that becomes an issue.
I agree in a sense that he's a beast in both transitions actually.
Yeah.
Or he has been for them. Their defensive shape has been much better with him in the side. Andre Gomez, I feel like Ancelotti simplified their game a little bit, but he can afford to do that because he's got James Rodriguez who is producing these high quality chances. I think Everton have actually, according to Opta, produced the most high quality chances in the league thus far, and we're only 4 games in, but that's pretty impressive for a side that's historically struggled going forward, at least in the last 5 years, despite throwing money at the number 10 position. They are quite fortunate that Dominic Calvert-Lewin is coming good. He is running quite hot at the minute.
Richarlison's been out of this world.
Yeah, I don't want to get too carried away with Dominic Calvert-Lewin because he's made steady progress, and I don't want people to think that if he scores under 15 goals at this point, his season is a failure, right? But
it's an interesting one because I remember on the podcast actually, I remember we were talking about Everton, and I remember saying very distinctly that I didn't see Dominic Calvert-Lewin or Richarlison as a sort of a 15+ goal a season striker. But I don't think that that's the guy who's going to lead the line and get you up the table. Whereas I look at Dominic Calvert-Lewin now, and his progression over the last 6 months has been so rapid that I actually do think he could lead the line for Everton single-handedly across the whole course of the season. Whereas last season, I wouldn't have said that
He's
about
a specimen,
him.
physical
I think
specimen as well.
He needed Richarlison up with him to play off him. Whereas now, with Richarlison playing wider, I don't feel like he needs him as much up there. And that's allowed Carlo to play that sort of inverted wingers in a 4-3-3 of Rodriguez and Richarlison coming in. Whereas last season, when he was playing the 4-4-2, and the Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin connection was quite good, and they're sort of shirt tight to each other. But now, he looks so physically dominant that I think he can play as a lone 9.
And it's not, like I said before, James Rodriguez is Doucouré's unlocked Rodriguez, right? And that Rodriguez doesn't necessarily, much to every commentator in the country's chagrin, doesn't necessarily have to put up 5 tackles a game. I mean, he's still doing his defensive duties. He's a very good presser as well, great anticipation, so he actually puts up a lot of interceptions. But Doucouré's covering that whole sort of right flank. And it also means that this is the most attacking I've seen Seamus Coleman in quite some time as well. And Andre Gomez, Rodriguez is finding Coleman, and I feel like Coleman is the main route to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Rodriguez has been great. That left-hand side's been great as well. But those crosses coming from the right-hand side are like food and drink to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, aren't they? Because if he gets up early, no one is touching him.
But I do think that further down the course of the season, that might end up being a little bit of an issue. I think I said it might have been in the Tottenham game that on the transition, they look so vulnerable. When Seamus Coleman gets caught upfield and James is in that sort of in and around the edge of the box, that right-hand side.
But that's where Decore is, right?
Like a problem. And what I think Carlo's done after week 1 or week 2 is say to Decore, you need to be filling that void way more consistently, because Seamus Coleman is almost like a right mid at times in this Everton team. Decore gets dropped in. So I think what he's identified quite smartly, Ancelotti, is that need to have him on the overlap, because it brings the defender away and Hammers can come in on his left. I do still think there would be some issues at the back. I know that Jerry Mina and Keane have started quite well. Keane, I think, distribution-wise, especially, has looked very solid.
Jerry Mina's been a beast when I've watched him.
Yeah, and I'm wondering whether you guys think Ben Godfrey comes straight into the team, immediately starts. Does he come in as a rotation option? What do you think about Ben Godfrey?
Did you write any scripts on Godfrey? Because I know that Norwich wanted 50 mil for him last season, which felt ambitious. They've obviously got him for 20 with, I think, 4 million in add-ons, right? I mean, he's quite highly coveted. I think it's good depth-wise, but I don't think he's going to be challenging for a starting berth right away. Like, the back four looks very settled, more so than it ever has.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously they are quite reliant on Michael Keane being able to pass out from the back, because I don't think Jerry Mina is fantastic with his feet.
And neither are any of their midfielders really, except for Hammers.
So I don't know whether or not, like you said, I think Jerry Mina's had a big impact physically, especially in the opposition box early days in the season, and he's defended quite well.
Some of those last-ditch tackles, I think it was against Brighton, right?
But I wonder over the course of the full season whether or not that will be the role Ben Godfrey kind of comes into. It's an interesting one, because I think, like you said, they've defended very well start of the season.
Well, they were still under Silva. They were still quite reliant on like Digne and Coleman to progress the ball. They're still quite like that now, actually. So my only concern for them moving forward is if Coleman does get injured, the right back alternative looks like either John Joe Kenny, not John Joe Shelvey, and Tom Davies can be utilised at right back as well. But that kind of changes the way they progress the ball up the pitch. So it's like, can James Coleman at 31 with a couple of niggling injuries, can he put up a 30-plus game season? And if anything happens to Luca Digne, I feel like that ruins quite a lot of the chemistry on the pitch.
Yeah.
So they are in, I feel like Ancelotti's kind of spinning a few plates, and the situation's maybe a little bit more delicate than people are making out. But if they can carry on this form until Christmas, yeah, like top 6, I think anything short of top 6 would be disappointing.